Welcome to Gardening with Ben, the podcast where we dig into the soil of our gardens and the depths of our green thumbs. I'm your host Ben, here to guide you through the joys of gardening from sowing seeds to reaping bountiful harvests. Each episode will explore tips, tricks and tales from the garden and allotment, sharing insights from ourselves and stories from our own back garden adventures. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just getting your hands dirty for the first time, there's something here for everyone. So grab your brew and gardening gloves and let's get growing with Gardening with Ben. Hello and welcome to today's gardening podcast with Gardening with Ben. And in today's podcast, we're going to be talking about how I got into gardening and where it all began, to be honest, and where Gardening with Ben came from. I have spoke about this in one of my old episodes, but obviously if you're new to the podcast, then you will be able to hear how I've got into it all and where it all came from, all my interest in gardening, and why I took it to the next level in doing all this podcasting and blogging and stuff like that. So so sit back, relax, and let's enjoy today's episode. So, how I got into gardening myself. To be honest, it's all down to my dad, really, how I got into gardening. What it was is that there was an allotment site near us where I live, and there was one person left on that allotment site. The whole site had gone derelict, and there was nobody working on the allotment site. Just just this one person around with all the weeds, all the rubbish, all the trash, everything. It was absolutely horrendous. And somebody in the local community decided to tackle it and get the council to get them back into use again. And the council turned round and said, if you can get people onto them, we'll help clear the site and regenerate it all and get it looking back as an allotment site. So he got together, he managed to get the allotment site filled with tenants, and one of them was my dad. And obviously, when my dad took it on, I was about 10 years old. So I used to go down there and help my dad on a regular basis. And I learned everything through my dad, from growing the seeds to helping watering them, weeding them, and learning all about it really from my dad. And when it got to, I was about 17, 18, I thought, why am I helping my dad when I'm allowed to actually have my own allotment site now and I'll be able to do my own allotment? Because obviously I'm still living at home and I wanted a space for me to be able to go and just be at peace with myself and enjoy the fresh air and time to get away really from everyone. So I applied to the council, and they weren't as popular back then when I was 18, not like they are now. So I managed to get one literally straight away, and the council cleared it for me. They brought on a big digger and scraped all the top off it and cleared it all for me. And yeah, I got stuck in and I got started. And when I obviously first started my allotment, I was just doing basic things. I made basic paths and basic beds. I didn't spend any money on anything. Everything I got was free. I got a free greenhouse off somebody. And yeah, I got to work and I got growing some stuff. I planted my cooking apple tree, my plum tree. I also planted a cherry tree and an apricot tree. But the apricot and the cherry tree didn't do anything, so they didn't stay in the ground that long. They definitely got dug up and cleared because they didn't do very well at all. But looking back on reflection is that I probably shouldn't have planted my fruit trees where I planted them, because they're probably my sunniest spot. So it'd have been better growing my fruit and vegetables there. But you don't know these things until you learn, do you, really? That I should have probably planted them somewhere else and kept the sunny spots for growing my main vegetables and stuff like that. But you live and learn by these mistakes, and like I said, they've been in like 16 years now, so I'm not going to be digging them up and shifting them, that is for sure. And I do get a lot of fruit on them, so they're definitely worth the money and weight. And if you've got an allotment, it is I would recommend having fruit trees on it because it will pay for your allotment tenfold with the amount of fruit that you get off them. And if you look in the supermarkets at the moment, I've noticed in Tesco, they have got the fruit trees back in, and I think it's 2 fruit trees for £12 with club card. And that's where I bought my fruit trees from originally, from the supermarket, and they do fantastic. So have a look around, have a look in there, and see what you can get. And I even purchased 2 Victoria plum trees last year, I think it was, for £1.50 when they were selling them off at the end of winter. And they've grown fantastic over the last year. We're going to get some good produce coming on them soon, so make sure you stay tuned for them. So yeah, that's how I got into gardening really, and where I started off. And like I say, I started off with a greenhouse originally, which was a glass greenhouse. And the funny thing about this is that we was given it, and unfortunately we couldn't dismantle it. So me and my dad ended up taking out all the glass and carrying it to the allotment as a frame, and it was about a mile away. But we got it there. We got it there in one piece, and we had it on my allotment. And then my dad put all the glass sheeting in. But I really don't recommend having a glass greenhouse on an allotment because if a window shatters, you just get glass everywhere. And I've taken down the glass greenhouse now, and I've built my own shed greenhouse out of plastic and wood, and it's a lot better because I can get in it better. It's higher, it's taller, and yeah, it certainly is a lot better building your own, and it's cheaper. And it's easier to replace panels if they do break than having the glass ones themselves, and they're a lot safer. So we started off with the greenhouse, and then we got the polytunnel, which probably cost me about £500 to be honest with you. But that has been in about 12 to 14 years, and the plastic has just about had it. So we're going to have to end up digging up all the trench and re-putting the polytunnel cover, putting a new polytunnel cover on it eventually, which is going to be a job and a half to do. I'm not looking forward to that. I'm even tempted to pay someone to do it because it's going to be that hard. But we'll see. We'll see how we get on. This wind, what we've got today, it might just blow it straight off. So we'll see if it's in one piece in the morning when I go down to the plot. But yeah, if you're looking for a polytunnel, whatever you do, don't get one of these green ones, what you see at about £99, because they'll just disintegrate over a year or two, and they just shatter a load of squares all over your allotment of plastic squares, and they rip and they just collapse. They're absolutely rubbish. If you're looking at getting a polytunnel, definitely invest in a proper professional polytunnel, like from First Polytunnels, Northern Polytunnels, Premier Polytunnels, one of the big companies. I don't recommend getting a small one whatsoever. You need one that you can dig into the ground and trench it in. So yeah, we have got that sorted. So we got the polytunnel, and then over the years we've just improved it. And like I said, I've rebuilt my shed recently and made that better and bigger and a lot more sturdier. We've been laying down proper patio paths. Whenever I get some paving slabs, I'm using them for paths, and it's looking a lot more professional. Every year I like to do a little bit more improvement to the plot, just to make it look more nice and aesthetically nice and easier, to be honest. The easier I can do it, the better, really. So we've got that to do. And then also, how did I get into the social media side of things? Why did I decide to start blogging, and why did I start sharing all these tips and advice? Well, I've had my Facebook page possibly for about 4 or 5 years, and it didn't used to be called Gardening with Ben. We used to be called the Yorkshire Gardener, which I thought was a really good name, to be honest. But as everything started expanding and getting bigger, we're getting more global. We're getting more people from different parts of the country and from around the world. And I see that in my podcast as well, people listening from different countries. So I decided to change the name from the Yorkshire Gardener to Gardening with Ben. And yeah, I did actually lose a few followers when I changed the name, which was upsetting. But Gardening with Ben, everybody knows my name, and people like it. So rather than it being called the Yorkshire Gardener and people not knowing my name, at least they know my name now. And I obviously have my little motto at the end as well. Remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with Ben. And that's how I got the name, really, Gardening with Ben. And yeah, I've had my page for about 4 or 5 years now, and I never used to go live on my Facebook page whatsoever. I was nervous, I was shy. I feel like I'm somebody that I know how to do stuff, but if people ask me how to do stuff, I won't always know the answers. And I'm truthful. I tell people I don't know the answers to that. Can people help out? Because I don't know everything whatsoever. I'm still learning every single day on new stuff and tips and advice from people. So I was really nervous about going live. And I think the first time I went live was during the first lockdown of coronavirus. That's when I first went live and I actually pressed that go live button. And since then, I've absolutely loved going live whatsoever. Uh, I've made some fantastic friends. People love to tune in and have a look around. People like to see how I'm improving on things. And yeah, I've built up a brilliant little community. And that is how we started going live. And I must admit, I've not been going live much for the last year. Like I say, I've not planted much last year or done much on the allotment or grown stuff because of my shed not being up to standard, so I couldn't plant any seeds and stuff like that. But we are going to start fetching the lives back. The first thing on the list was to fetch the podcast back, which they are back up and running, as you can tell. So we've got the podcast back up and running. But hopefully the live streams will start coming back again soon. We do go live on TikTok a bit when we're down there, so if you're on TikTok, make sure you give Gardening with Ben a follow. And yeah, I obviously do the battles and everything on TikTok like they do at home, and everything goes back into my allotment what I make from TikTok, so you can see where it all goes to. But yeah, that is basically how Gardening with Ben started, how we started all the social media, and where we're going from there. So we're getting there, and like I said, this year is going to be a good year for streaming and doing this podcast and everything. And I've noticed how many new followers I'm getting on Instagram through my podcast. So thank you for all those that have started listening. And if you're not following my Instagram, do give it a follow. I post lots of photos on there of my allotment and plenty of selfies as well. I'm a selfie king. But yeah, do give my Instagram a follow. And hopefully we'll come back with another episode tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get down to the allotment tomorrow and we won't have blown away as the weather is absolutely atrocious, blowing winds. Thankfully we've not got much rain, so that's a good sign. It's just windy at the moment. So hopefully we'll be back tomorrow. So in the meantime, remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with Ben, everyone. And that wraps up another episode of Gardening with Ben. Thank you for joining me in this journey. Remember, every seed planted is a step towards a greener world, and every day is a chance to grow something beautiful. Keep nurturing your gardens and your souls. Until next time, I'm Gardening with Ben, reminding you to let your garden be your sanctuary. Happy gardening and see you in the next episode. Remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with Ben.